Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new around here, my name is Abby and I'm a homeschooling mom of 5 kids. My kids are a year and a half up through 15 in just a couple of weeks here, and we've been homeschooling from the beginning. So if you stick around, if you like what you see, then you'll get a lot of homeschooling content, some homemaking content, and a little bit of everything else in between. So today we are talking about homeschooling older kids, middle school and high school. And just for some context, we are halfway through our oldest's freshman year of high school. And my second born is finishing up his 7th grade year. So we've had one go through middle school and enter high school within our homeschool, and then one who's currently in middle school and one who will be there in a year and a half. So we're kind of in all of the stages of homeschooling right now with a toddler, young elementary, older elementary, middle schooler, and high schooler. And so I decided to go ahead and take some questions from you guys on Instagram to see what you wanted to know about homeschooling middle and high school, but just keep in mind that we are only in the beginning stages of high school, so any future plans that I talk about are hypothetical at the moment. So, you know, rose-colored glasses because we haven't gone through the whole process yet. So before I get into your questions, well, make sure that you make yourself a cup of coffee or tea, because there were actually a lot of questions, and I considered breaking this up into 2 parts, but I think I'm just going to kind of consolidate the general theme of the different questions and make it a little more generic. But before I get into the questions, I want to say thank you to Apologia for partnering with me on today's video. If you've been around here for a while, then you know that we've used Apologia for years and years and years. It is the only science curriculum that we have used here in our home, and we love it. So I especially have enjoyed using it with my older kids as they become more independent in middle school and high school. So a quick shout out to Apologia, and then I'll get into your questions. Today's video is in partnership with Apologia Science, and we love Apologia Science in our homeschool. I've grown to appreciate it even more the older that my kids get. My middle and high schoolers are learning mostly independently using their Apologia curriculum, and Apologia helps them with that independent learning by providing clear instructions, schedules, lab information, and organization to make this bridge toward independence smooth and seamless. We start with general science in 7th grade. This is designed to be the first course of middle school, and it walks students through the transition from elementary to middle school sciences. This general science course gives students an understanding of the world that surrounds them so they can appreciate the real-world relevance of scientific inquiry and the beauty of creation. The student notebook provides a daily schedule to help them know what is expected each day, and it also helps them improve their writing skills and learn to take good notes. So since there's no one right way to take good notes, they get different techniques to try in this notebook, and they find the way that works best for them. The student notebook also has space for them to answer the on-your-own questions that are in each module, and it helps them review and prep for tests. It has space for them to record their results from activities, and a creation connection where students record their intellectual, emotional, and spiritual reactions to what they're learning. General science has been an incredibly thorough introduction to higher level science for my kids, and I've noticed that each of my kids gain a lot of confidence through the process of taking their own notes, creating their own study guides, and most importantly, executing their own experiments while I oversee as necessary. In our house, I simply review their work with them on a regular basis, as well as watch them do their science experiments, and I have yet to need to step in. After general science, we move on to physical science, and then in 9th grade, we begin biology, which is what my oldest daughter is using right now. This course has a strong emphasis on vocabulary and experiments, and it also covers everything students need to prepare successfully for a college-level biology course and the ACT. Because it's a college prep course, there's quality focus on becoming an effective and organized note taker, as well as cultivating valuable study skills, which I have really seen come alive from my daughter this year. This course has been my daughter's favorite so far because her experiments now include microscope labs, dissection labs, and household labs. Throughout the modules, there are creation connections, and these are conversational in nature and designed to help students see the connections to a designer and give them another way of thinking about the concept that they're studying. As a homeschooling mom, I could not be more satisfied with the science education that my kids are receiving through Apologia, and I look forward to all of my students going through these courses. It's the perfect step toward independence, confidence, and should they choose to pursue a higher education in science, I am completely confident in how they're being equipped not only as students but also as believers that the Bible is the holy, inspired, infallible Word of God. Thank you so much, Apologia, for partnering with me on today's video, and I will put information in the description box down below if you want to check out their science courses for yourself. So thank you so much, Apologia, for partnering with me today. I will put a link in the description box down below if you guys want to see some other videos that I've shared about Apologia and the lab kits that we use and a flip through of their science and all of that. So I'll put some links to other videos that I've done sharing their curriculum down in the description box down below. Let's get into the questions. So the first question here, and I had a few that were similar to this, is how long does homeschool take with these older ages versus the younger ages? And so we've been in a pretty good rhythm here for the last few years where I start with our group work and then we move into more independent work for my older kids while my younger ones work directly with me. And that gives me a chance to get the younger kids' work finished so they can go off and play and have the rest of their day free. I've always kind of been a done by lunchtime kind of mom when it comes to the younger grades. And then after lunch, I sit with my older kids. So they are actively working almost all day up until about 2 o'clock with a little break for lunch. And that's probably wouldn't be as long of a day for them if I didn't want them to sit in with our group work as well, but that time is really precious to me. Our family subjects are really just a sweet time together where we're working on hymns and geography and some nature study. And so, you know, if they were just working independently of the rest of their siblings, I would say that they would probably do about 4 hours a day, but because they're with us for that group time, that takes about like an hour and a half to 2 hours, depending on our read aloud. And, you know, they want to watch World Watch News with them, and we're doing an art study and things like that. So really, they're working from somewhere between 8 and 9 a.m. until about 2 o'clock with a lunch break. But like I said, if I didn't have kids in elementary school currently, that might be amended a little bit. So all in all, I would say a couple hours longer than their younger siblings, but also a couple hours of more independent work in the mornings where they may have just been doing some handwriting and then waiting for me to work with them. So they're working a little longer, but they're also actively engaged kind of all day, where that wasn't the case always. And so yeah, average amount of time your high school student spends in independent work daily. Like I said, they're with us for some group work, then I dismiss them for their math, their science, if they have logic, or if I have them do character study and missionary study on their own. My middle schooler is still finishing penmanship. My older one is not doing that currently, but she has different Bible studies that she's working through for me, and different reading assignments. Sometimes they get co-op homework. She's got violin that she needs to practice. So about 2 hours that they're doing more independent subjects, but that doesn't mean that it's independent of me completely. There's still quite a bit of my involvement in their independent work, and we'll get to that later. Any tips on preparing for high school if you have a middle schooler? Yes, I think the biggest surprise to me about high school so far, and again, just keep in mind, all of my answers are obviously, and I know you guys know this already, but I just want to say it for those of you who might be new to homeschooling and you kind of are still in that stage where you think your homeschool has to look like everyone else's. All of my answers are for my family specifically. They're unique to my family, so I'm only answering from my perspective. But the thing that has surprised me the most has been just how flexible I've needed to be. And the reason for that is because high school has come with a lot of changes for my daughter. She joined a varsity sport at a local school, so that was different. That was something added in. She had to be at practice 5 days a week. That's much different than her current dance schedule, which is in the evenings. Their practices were immediately after school. And then because that football team went all the way through to the championship game, her cheerleading went from July all the way through November, which was unexpected. So we had to be flexible a little longer than we were anticipating with that schedule, with travel, with weekends, and then leaving that, going right into her competitive dance season. Comp season is from like January through late April for us. And we've allowed her to do a lot more now that she's in high school than we were allowing before. So in the past, we were letting her do her group dances and then maybe a solo or a trio. This year, she's doing all sorts of things. We let her accept everything that she made and wanted to do this year, and we will continue to do that through her senior year as she wants to. So she's got solos, trios, small group dances, large group dances, her regular team group dances. So she's at the studio a lot as well, and because her teachers know she's homeschooled, a lot of times her trio practices, solo practices are during the school day, and then her additional group dances, besides her regular ones, are on the weekend, like the large group and things. So there's not a lot of time for her to kind of like make up for lost time, which is why we start early in the morning. And my husband is also a big, like not a big fan of doing homework in the evenings or the weekends. He's pretty protective of our family time. And so the flexibility has been really important. And on top of that, she just recently accepted a little part-time job at a local ministry, which is so fun for her. She only works 1 day a week, but it's on a school day. So that's been another area that we need to add in some flexibility, but I see all of that as some reality of what life really looks like outside of graduating high school. You've got evening work, you've got daytime work, you've got weekend work. So there is so much value within that flexibility, the things that are being added to her schedule, teaching her how to emotionally regulate when she feels overwhelmed by things. All of that is really an important life skill that I think you need to learn in these young adult years. So I would say that would be kind of like something to prepare for most, is making too big of a plan and not leaving room for the social aspects that come with this age, or just them wanting to spread their wings a little bit more. So another question here was about independence versus family school. And so this person was saying that their middle schooler is more independent, but they want to continue doing family subjects, and how do I handle that? And so I'll say that I have been really, my friend just told me about this game where you can't say and now I hear it every time that I say it. So let me slow my thoughts down so that I can not say that every other second. I have been unwilling to give up the family subjects. Our homeschool has been built on that foundation all these years, and for the Charlotte Mason method, which I love most, hearing my older children narrate is an important aspect for my younger children. Getting that across the board, doing a lot of reading aloud that I don't want to be repeating all day long. It makes most sense for me to keep a lot of our subjects together. I have had to kind of amp up my expectations for my older ones in order to make that family time worth it. So family subjects, we do geography together, and we do history together, and a whole bunch of other things, morning basket type things, which I'll link up here if you want to see that. We've got a bird study and current events study and a Bible study and a poetry study and an artist and a composer and a poet and all of that. But as far as the actual reading, writing, and arithmetic type of subjects, we still do a few of them together as a family. Like I said, geography, history, the humanities, and Shakespeare, things like that. So in order to not be repeating myself all day or reading the same books all day, I still group all of that together as family subjects. We sit together, I read it, but I do ask my older kids for written narrations. I assign them books to read beyond what I'm asking my younger kids to do. We're still using Story of the World in middle and high school, the Story of the World that we've been using for years for our elementary students. But essentially, I'm taking that and creating a higher level, more rigorous course load for my older kids, giving them different read alouds. I've gotten on Ambleside and found some pairings with the time period in history, reports, project, research. So essentially, their curriculum is half based on Story of the World and half created by me, but it's the way that I keep everyone together and on the same history cycle in our homeschool. Same with geography. We're using Simply Charlotte Mason geography. My younger kids are doing the map work and hearing some of the read alouds. My older kids are having things assigned to them to read, and that is simple because a lot of the recommendations are in the book for older students. But so family subjects can still be done, and it's not like you're pretending to do school with your older kids. You just have to put in a little bit more work in making it worth their while and your while to have them join you for that time. So additional reading, written narrations, research, all those things that kind of bulk it up for them to do on their own, that can take a subject you're doing with your first and fourth grader and make it middle and high school worthy. I hope that made sense. Okay, next. And I actually didn't look at these questions a lot ahead of time, but I am seeing a lot of similar ones. Somebody said, when should career come into focus? Is this something that needs to be at the forefront of education? And I believe that there were some more, what would your planning change if an older teen had zero interest in college? Do you tailor school plans to your children's career interests at all? Lots of questions about college and career transcripts, things like that. And so to that, I will say that, again, we only have a 9th grader currently, but we have had a long-term goal for a long time of allowing our kids to take a gap year. And so because of that, dual enrollment is on our agenda. I would like to give them the gift of being a little bit ahead so that they can confidently take that gap year. And then if they would like to pursue college after that, go in not having lost time per se. And for my oldest currently, she has had an interest at some points in college and a career that involves college. She has had interest at some point in ministry and missions work, and some programs that she's looked into that you go into that program or that certificate training instead of going to a traditional four-year college. And she's also the daughter of an entrepreneur who has offered her opportunity as soon as she graduates if she would prefer. So to that, I will say that our plan has been to give them that dual enrollment time so that they can take that gap year if they choose to pursue college. But also, yes, I do set my kids up to attend a university, not because I want them to, not because I'm requiring it of them, not because we are telling them it's the best choice for them, but so that if they change their mind, or if they want to do that and don't change their mind, if they want to go that path, it's not because of me or my lack of preparing them that they, miss out on that chance. So in the state of Florida, the homeschool diploma looks like XYZ. These are the requirements. What I've done is I've gone to a couple of our state schools that are a little harder to get into. I've looked at what their entrance requirements are or preferences are on applications, and I've tailored my kids' education to that. If they choose not to pursue college, is it gonna just absolutely kill them that they took an extra course in this or they hadn't accredited that? No, it'll be good for them still, but it's helpful for them if they choose to go that path. So I've just learned over the last really year and a half or so that the direction I thought my daughter was going has changed 3 different times, and At this current point, she does actually want to pursue university. And if you would have asked me this time last year, she wanted to do anything but that. And so I do think it's wise to just kind of create a plan based on maybe like the highest goal that you would have for them or that they would have for themselves. And then if they change their mind, that's okay, but at least they're not making up for lost time. And a lot of times with homeschooling, what that looks like on paper isn't as rigorous as you would think it is in your home. If you follow Kristen at Delightfully Feasting, she has a wealth of wisdom on Instagram. And the way that she's setting up her boys' transcript, it doesn't have to be one semester at a time or one quarter at a time. She's spreading the feast across the 4 years of high school and plugging the credits in as she sees fit. So for example, economics, I know that she's doing a little of this and a little of that, and at the end of 4 years, she'll give him a half credit because they read this and they did that over the course of 4 years. So it doesn't have to look super intense, rigorous textbook in order for it to go on a transcript or for the college entrance. And I've talked to so many of the moms in my local homeschooling community, like, can I really count this? Is this okay? And I found that it's not as intense as you can make it to be in your mind. So I'm happy with giving her a little bit of a more rigorous course load just to give her all options when she graduates, and also to offer them that gap year for travel, for ministry, and just to get a little bit more practice living on their own. Not that they won't be living here, but you know, being on their own, working, just having life experience before, if they want to, they go off to school. And then for my son, he is very military focused at the moment. I'm not sure if he's going to continue that way or not, but every time that I think it's a phase, it actually takes on a little more, it takes roots. And so I'm fairly confident that that's likely the direction he's gonna wanna go, or something of the likes. But I would still like to give him opportunity for college in case he wants to enter in with some college under his belt. I know there are perks to that as well. And if that's the case for him, we can talk about this down the road. But as of right now, he's set to graduate at 17. I may slow him down a little bit to give him a little bit more time. He has a summer birthday, so that's a story for another day. Let's see, what is next? Do you have a hard time picking middle and high school curriculum versus going with something like Ambleside Online? I don't really have a hard time. I love curriculum, and we've stayed on the same track from the beginning. I wouldn't say I've really deviated much from the same different book choices and curriculum choices. And so I really like what we do, and I feel really good about it. I have enough homeschoolers ahead of me who I'm close friends with. We have a humongous homeschooling community in our little beach town. It is actually quite shocking. You would not expect it. So I've had a lot of women to watch over the years who I have no problem going to for advice and to glean wisdom from them. And so I've been given the gift of confidence from the beginning because of them. Because they have just poured into me and poured into the younger homeschooling moms over the years. And so that's one great thing about living in a community like that. So I like what we do, and I've never really felt too pressured to change that. And so it's a little eclectic, although it is mostly kind of along the lines of Charlotte Mason, but I've pulled from different companies, and I've felt really confident creating my own thing out of just books instead of using a curriculum. And so no, I don't really feel like I have a hard time with it, especially since I did a lot of research about building a transcript and what that looks like as a homeschooler. I don't feel like all of a sudden we got to high school and now we have to use textbooks so I can count things as credits. I feel really confident on how we're doing things. One more thing I will say though, because I see another one, like, when do you start planning on focusing on career? And my daughter right now is really interested in interior design, not interior decorating, but interior design. And I would chalk that up to the fact that my husband owns a couple of construction management and contracting companies. And so she gets to see these kinds of things. She sees design boards. She sits in his office sometimes when he's meeting with different designers, and she's really interested in this now. And so for her sake, that career could come into focus much earlier because she can go apprentice with him. He currently has an apprentice who is now a senior in high school, but he started with him when he was a junior in high school, and he's, you know, going to be graduating here in a couple of months and moving right into a different position in the company. And so there will be room for her as an apprentice here soon if that's what she'd like to do. So for her sake, that can come into play right now. You know, sometimes he'll bring home projects and she creates a little pretend design board, and so she's getting a little bit of opportunity, and she's able to talk to these designers and, you know, find out about credentials and schools, and the school's better for that and such. But I wouldn't put all of our eggs in that basket, because then every now and then she'll throw it all away and say she wants to be a missionary, and you're like, okay, well, you gotta hold it with an open hand and not kind of like pump them into one direction. I wanted to be everything and more in 9th, 10th, 11th grade, and even what I landed on wasn't what I ended up doing. And I still have interest in other things, you know, when I'm done homeschooling. So I don't really think that putting all of your eggs in one basket is a wise decision, especially with teenagers. But so that's my answer on that. When should career come in focus? If you see strengths and you see that they're likely to head in one direction, my daughter's not going to be a scientist. I can pretty much guarantee you that. She's not going to be a historian. She loves it, but it's not what she's really into. So we'll do what we need to do. But, you know, when it does come to the different design things or Bible studies and ministry type things, yeah, take the opportunities, you know, spread your wings, try it out. So that's kind of my idea, more so in where it comes into focus. If she does get to her junior, senior year and seems really intensely interested in something, then yes, I'll give her an additional business math course. I would love to set her up with other opportunities, but as of right now, it's just more about dabbling in things and not setting a direction at 14, 15 years old. Any subjects you won't get to before they graduate that you wish you had focused on more in the earlier years? Yes, I definitely wish I had been more focused on things like handcrafts and the humanities earlier on, and we are now with our younger kids, and I'm seeing just what a rich education that brings to them. So I do wish that we had done that, but I also don't hold a lot of regrets because I've enjoyed our homeschooling journey all the way through, and so have my older kids. Also some more read alouds. I do wish I had focused on that a little bit more. Okay, some of these are still more focused on like interests and career. What are you doing for middle school history and science? I did answer the history question already about story of the world, and then kind of like adding to that. For science, we start Apologia, general science in 7th grade. They move on to, and with the lab kit. The lab kit from Nature's Workshop Plus is so helpful. From that, they move on to physical science in 8th grade with the lab kit, and then biology in 9th grade. I believe next year she'll be doing chemistry, and then we'll reassess because she will have her 2 labs. And I, at least in Florida, can count 5 years of credits, so we can consider that physical science because that's an 8th or 9th grade curriculum to be her 3rd science credit, or she can move on and do any of the other high school science courses that Apologia offers, because she will have already completed her 2 lab requirements in our state with her biology labs and her chemistry labs. So she can continue on from there, or she can do other things. I know she really wants to do the health and nutrition course with them, so that is what we do for middle and high school science. How do you help keep your children motivated to do their best? My oldest hits a wall. Another person said motivation to care or desire to take control of their education and not just mom in control. I think that kind of stuff starts way earlier, and not your kids' interest. Obviously, when they are young teens, they're gonna lose interest because maybe they've gotten a cell phone and they have more connection to their friends, or they're just not super interested in doing math at 2 p.m. But as far as your consistency and your follow through as a mom is where you can really set the stage to have good follow through at that age. And so my kids know that I'm no nonsense. We have an enjoyable homeschool, but that's not lax by any means. They know there is a standard. They know that dad knows that standard. They know that the things that they love to do after school hours are hinging on that. They know that I have no problem saying, I really think we should do 6th grade again. Like, they know that, and not in a shameful way. I've asked my kids in the past, each of my older kids have had the opportunity when I saw them having a rough time, would you like to redo this? Do you feel ready to move on to this next book or this next grade level, so to speak? And so they know that that's always an option. So there's that. On top of that, I would say that it doesn't have to be dry to the degree that they lose interest in everything. I think that there can still be really fun things sprinkled in for middle and high schoolers. My daughter still sits in with crafts with us. My son still, you know, does all the silly little songs, and if anything, he has learned to love folk songs and things like that more the older he gets. So never think they're too old for something. I think they need a little bit of that spark still. So bring in some fun things, bring in some board games. They're not beyond learning with play. Teachers Pay Teachers has really fun escape rooms and different games based on basically anything. If they're having a hard time in history, look up an escape room on that time in history. Look up some different mystery puzzles or games if they're having a hard time with math. Teachers Pay Teachers is an incredible resource for that. Take school outside, take school on the road, take a break for a couple of days and play games and do puzzles and listen to a couple of audiobooks just to change it up. And that helps keep motivation. I mean, my husband works in his office all day long, and then sometimes he works at a coffee shop just to change things up and stay motivated. Sometimes he works from home. Sometimes, you know, I mean, we have to change things up. We're not just like doing the same thing every day for the rest of our lives. So humans need some excitement and interaction. And so that would be kind of my advice on that. How I help keep them motivated is seeing them as people and not just students in my school, and finding out what else they need or what interests they have. But also it's school. And so I did have a conversation with one of my older children recently, and I won't say which one, but I did tell them that I would not invest more in their education than they were, and I would not take more of an interest in their education than they are, and they know what the long-term repercussions are of that. Like, they know long-term, if you don't, you know, do this and you don't take this seriously, that will only hurt you, not me. And so when I say to them, I'm not doing more than you're doing, they know that I mean that. And that's not said in anger or to hurt their feelings. That's strictly said to motivate them to take responsibility for their education. And we have lots of conversations with our kids the older that they get, in everything, not just their education. I was struggling with a kid, and I explained to them long-term what this type of struggle would produce, and how it was up to this child to decide whether or not they want that to happen long-term. And so again, it sounds a lot more strict the way that I'm saying it. That's not at all how the conversations go with my kids, but they know, like, I'm not gonna do more than you. I'm not the kind of mom who's gonna do your science fair project for you. We don't actually do science fair, but I'm not the mom who's gonna tell your dance teacher or karate instructor that you weren't feeling well last night if I know that you didn't practice or rehearse because you just didn't practice or rehearse. Like, I'm not an excuse-making mom. And if they turn up empty-handed for a presentation, then they turn up empty-handed, and that's how you learn in my book. So we have debates for apologetics at our co-op. We have a Christmas around the world that we've done with friends over the last few years and things like that. And I am a big fan of allowing your kids to experience that natural consequence of not putting in effort or not being prepared, because I think that if that happens to you once, it never happens again, versus rescuing them every time. So I haven't rescued my kids since like 3rd grade, and they've all learned, and they've all become better students because of that. So I don't know if that answered the question, but that's what I wanted to say about that, apparently. So let's see. How do you balance extracurriculars with college prep work? And I kind of touched on that a little bit at the beginning with my daughter's extracurricular schedule. Now my son will be adding in football to his upcoming black belt sessions for karate, which he's about to be a brown belt, so he's got a little bit of time. But looking ahead at next year, he'll be in black belt training, which requires working at the association as well, and then adding in football schedule, and he does judo and things like that. So his workload will also be intensified as he approaches high school as well. And so we just don't have a lot of fluff unnecessarily. The things that we do in our homeschool, I really believe in. I know a lot of people would consider a composer study to be fluff. I don't. I believe it's really important. What I don't do is outlining and diagramming essays. I think that that's fluff. You know, we work on narrations and refining those into 5 paragraphs as they get older. So I would kind of consider a lot of the busy work to be unnecessary. And so I've got it narrowed down to the things that I think are important for them. And then they also have, my daughter 1 day a week does bring her textbook for a subject with her, and she sits at the studio because she has an hour between classes. And so how do we use our time wisely? We can bring it there, and that adds an extra day that you have time to do something that you maybe wouldn't have time to do otherwise, and frees you up the next time you have free time. So just teaching them how to use their time wisely, how to use windows of time for things. But I do protect our schedule so much. I'm so protective of our schedule. When I know we can be home, we are home getting schoolwork done, so that when things come up later, we've already got it completed. Our yeses are calculated, our nos are calculated. And so even something like me saying you have to be flexible, yes, I mean be flexible, not to the point of waking up every day and wondering what's gonna happen, but working things into the schedule and being willing to reposition other things. So when my daughter had this opportunity to take a 1 morning a week job, my gut instinct was, no, you don't have time for that. But I was able to say, okay, it's 3 hours, 1 morning a week. I can reposition that. That's right near the coffee shop, so we can do some of your schoolwork there right afterward. She and another girlfriend walk down to a different coffee shop afterwards sometimes and work. Or like I said, make sure that she's starting a little earlier in her day. So that was a calculated yes, because I think that that's a really awesome opportunity for her, especially if she is interested in ministry. It's at a local ministry, and so that's a really neat opportunity to be working at a 501c3 and also getting a little spending money. I mean, it's not much, it's 1 day a week, but all of a sudden she was looking at something for dance the other day and she goes, that's a whole paycheck for those pants. And I was like, yeah, it sure is. So it's also giving her that awareness as well. But our yeses are calculated. I think that's a good opportunity for her. I see another place we could move her science and math work for that day. So yes, that's wise. That's a good opportunity for her. If it was adding an additional, you know, there is now on that same day, there's another group of our friends that have been meeting at the beach, and that is currently a calculated no. You know, that would be so fun, but we really can't afford an extra day at the beach right now, which I know if you don't live by the beach, you're like, how can you not afford an extra day at the beach? We have plenty of time at the beach, but we cannot at this stage in our homeschooling. We had many years of it where we were at the beach very often, but at this point, there's not space for it. There's value to it in the friendships, but we see those friends at church as well. So right now that would be a no. And so because that's a no, let's use that time wisely and not dwindle it away, because we could be at the beach right now. So I don't even remember what the question was. How do you balance extracurricular activities with college prep work? The same way that, you know, my goal is always to give my kids this awareness of, we're doing this because adults this. We're doing this to prepare you for that. They're not doing school for me. They're not taking, you know, tests in their notebooks for me. They're not doing any of this for me. I am strictly focused on preparing them for an abundant life outside of our home, where I feel like they're well prepared for a work-life family balance. And so in these older years, I really like to help them translate what this means on a smaller scale to what it means in adulthood. So I know I'm answering the same question and I sound like a run-on sentence, but that's how we balance things. This is important to you, it's good for you. Now we need to make sure that we put in the right amount of effort, or it's a waste of time. It's gonna bring on extra anxiety. Because you're doing this, You might not want to do this. Adults can't do it all either. You are just a child still, things like that. And just using pockets of time, not being slothful, but also being mindful of the fact that you do need rest and things. So let's work on delayed gratification. I'm a big believer that if you can learn delayed gratification, you can do anything. And so that we focused a lot on that, getting what we need to get done so we can enjoy things later. So that's how I don't know, it's kind of a non-answer and a long answer at the same time, but that's how we balance things. A lot of conversation and using wisdom and having follow through. And it's no secret when I say, like, we don't watch TV here except for Fridays. We don't. We have Pizza Friday. It's a big celebration because we're all sitting down and watching a movie for the first time. We let our kids play video games on Saturday. It's the first time they've touched video games or an iPad or anything all week. Not because I think screens are the enemy, but because we can enjoy things more knowing that we've done a good job this week. And naturally, we just don't find the TVs on. We don't find time for other things because we're getting things done and we're also enjoying some social time afterward. Okay, I have another question here on labs, like how I do labs, and I'm gonna partner this up with another question, which is, what is your, what was the question here? What are your must-haves for middle and high school? And those are, to me, are the same answer, because my biggest must-have for middle and high school are the lab kits for science. If it were up to me, finding a Q-tip, some vinegar, and a glass jar, and a match, and all these different things, my kids would never make it through their lab credits, especially because my focus is on like keeping the baby out of the jar of cookie butter while I'm trying to teach one how to read. Sometimes finding a paper clip for a physics lab is not on my radar whatsoever. And so I purchased the kids Nature Workshop Plus lab kits starting in 7th grade with my oldest. And those are on my list every single year, no questions asked. They're getting those lab kits so that they can finish their science without waiting on me for that. And it's just been so important for me to have those. So I will link a video down below where I unboxed a lab kit if you want to get a sample of what that looks like. And Nature's Workshop Plus creates a lab kit that goes along with each module in the Apologia science curriculum. So all you have to do is pull it out and open it up, and your, not ingredients, but your materials are in there, and then it tells you what to save for another module, and it has been so important. It's been the way we've been able to keep science mostly independent, and I say mostly because there's no official independent subject in our homeschool. That's another question I had there, which is, how independent are your independent students? Allison Adrian, I believe is her name. I got to listen to a great speech from her at the Simply Charlotte Mason retreat last year. She was really encouraging us to always have mind touching mind, always be checking in on your independent kids. There's no need to be completely independent all through high school, and I agree. So that's already the way we were doing things, but it was nice confirmation to hear that. A lot of times I'll watch their labs, or I will, see their work that they're doing, check it against their textbook and things like that. We'll sit down and have discussions every now and then, and I have no system for this. I will sit down and do a whole lesson with them or do the lab with them. So they're not completely independent. I would say at least once every other week, at least once per module, I'm with them for their science so I can make sure they're grasping things. And then with their math, I will watch them do lessons once or twice a week, really, because their computer is right by my kitchen, so I'm always right there. So there's no complete independence in our homeschool, but in order for them to move at a self-paced in a self-paced way through their modules and to be able to complete things in an efficient time frame, those lab kits are my absolute saving grace and very necessary for me and for my kids. Next question, do I let my kids sleep in or get up by a certain time? We start school at 8. And I have one kid, my middle school son has an alarm set every day for 6:15. He likes to get a little workout in the morning. Sometimes if I do my quiet time in my room and I don't come out of my room till 6:30 or 7, he's like fully dressed, has already taken a shower. He's got his hair done. This is actually just this morning that I kind of came out of my room closer to 7. It was like 6:50 something. And I just looked at my husband and started laughing because he has like this coffee in hand, this like half calf coffee. His hair is completely gelled over. He's already worked out for the day, so he's already showered, he's changed, he's dressed, he's got his Bible and his coffee, he's going out to the patio, and I was just like, who is this adult man in my house right now? And then my daughter has her shower schedule set, so she doesn't wake up until she has to get in the shower, and she knows all the things that she has to do in order to be at our school table by 8 or 8:30, and some days she wants to take a longer shower. She, you know us women, she'll be like, oh, it's a conditioner and then it's a church night, so I want to blow dry my hair. So she'll plan according to that. But our older ones have set their wake up time based on being to the school table between 8 or 8:30, and they are the ones who are there every day right on time. It's the ones who require my assistance that don't always get there on time because I am not as perfectly scheduled in the morning as they are. So, but also my oldest dances sometimes until like 9:30, getting home like around 10, and needs to have like deep conversation after because she's wired after being under the dance fluorescent lights for hours. And so sometimes that kind of eats away at her sleeping in time as well. So, but on the weekends, you know, lots of sleeping time on the weekends. Although they're up pretty early on the weekends too, I don't know. Next. Let's see. Well, there's still some more questions about college and things, and I feel like I would be more qualified to kind of give you guys my own answer on that when we get closer to that season. But as of right now, I'm just doing what I know, and setting things up the way that I know. Do I use 5 in a row through 8th grade? If so, do I need to add in any other curriculum, or is it enough? No, I stopped 5 in a row with my oldest when she was like 4th or 5th grade, and we were just doing it here and there. Then we got more consistent using 5 in a row with our younger ones, and my son enjoyed it so much, and I saw how much it motivated him that I used 6th grade as like a transition year for him toward independence, because I also didn't think he was completely ready to take some independent subjects in 7th grade or in 6th grade. So I wanted to kind of use 5 in a row, I think it was volume 5, to help him kind of transition to that independence. And so he did that semi-independently, semi with me, to learn how to do some basic science experiments and set up a lab report and things. So we used it for him in 6th grade as like a transition. I'm not sure if we'll do that for my next son. He's the kind of student who probably would be able to take on an entire middle school course load right now. He's very academically minded. So I don't think we'll do that, but it was a great option for a child who just needed a little extra hand holding to kind of make that transition. Let's see. Will I have my kids try to get their associates before graduating high school? It's not my plan to have them get their associates. I think it's a really great option, but it's not necessarily my goal to have them get it by the time they graduate high school in a traditional dual enrollment sense. Our local community college also has this really great program for any student who graduates in our county, including homeschoolers, private schoolers, and charter school students, where they can actually continue to get their associate's degree here for free, no tuition costs. They would have to, they'd have to pay for books once they were no longer dual enrolling, but I'm not really feeling the pressure for them to get their associates. I got the majority of my associate's degree done in high school, and I just remember being thrown into a lot my junior, senior year where I missed out on a lot of fun stuff. And so, not that like they have to have all the fun stuff. Excuse you, my dog is snoring right next to me. I just felt like I really could have had just another year still of being a kid. So I'm a little sensitive to that, to really pushing that too hard, especially considering that it's an option for them to continue afterward. Let's see, I think I might stop it there. There's still quite a few more questions here, and I might ask you guys here soon on YouTube instead of just on Instagram if you have more questions, maybe as we finish our freshman year and start looking at sophomore year, how things have changed a little bit. So yeah, I will go there. I will stop it there. and say thank you guys for sending me all of your questions, and thank you for sticking around. This was a really long video, and I know that because the sun has set and I look purple because my lighting now no longer makes sense to when I started. So I know it's a long video. You've probably finished your coffee or tea already, or you might not even be here anymore. So thank you guys for watching today's video. And like I said, all this is just my inexperienced opinion. We have not made it even halfway through high school yet, but I loved the way we did middle school, and I love the way we're currently doing middle school. It's been really enjoyable. Homeschooling these older years has been my favorite stage of homeschooling so far, 100%. I probably will do a video soon on why I love homeschooling these ages so much, just to encourage those of you who are on the cusp of these ages. I just think I was so scared of it, and it was so unnecessary because it has been the joy of my homeschooling career thus far. And it's just an incredible stage to kind of watch all of these roots start to bloom. I don't even know if that's sort of a phrase. So anyway, take all these seeds, grow. I don't know. It's been so fun to watch the efforts that we've put in really start to show up in this season of homeschooling. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you so much, Apologia, for partnering with me on today's video, and I will see you soon. Bye guys.